Outsourcing tends to have a bad reputation as being low quality. Partner Hero's value-based approach raises the bar for the outsourcing industry by investing in employee empowerment and career growth, paying above-market salaries, and maintaining a focus on quality and performance. They're more than a service provider. They're also a thought partner for the startups they serve. It's simple. Brands that care about quality customer experience choose Partner Hero. They offer flexible terms and the ability to scale quickly, perfect for startups, with quality assurance baked into every program and offices around the world. So Partner Hero can provide truly global coverage. Outsourcing has long been available mainly to big businesses, but Partner Hero is challenging business as usual by bringing the benefits of outsourcing to businesses of all sizes with short, flexible contracts and fast ramp-up times. 10 years ago, when we were launching the Action Catalyst, we could have used a few extra hands to help us scale quickly, even if it was just for a short while. You can bet that with their expertise, fast onboarding, and core focus on quality, Partner Hero would have had our attention. If you're ready to bring in outside customer support help for your startup that feels like it's a part of an existing team, check out Partner Hero. Head over to partnerhero.com/Action Catalyst to book a free consultation with our solutions team. Mention you heard about Partner Hero from the Action Catalyst, and they'll even waive the setup fee. Now, on to the show.
From Nashville, Tennessee, Southwestern Family of Companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. Each week, we share insights and inspiration from movers and shakers in the world of business. Our goal is to help you increase your self-discipline, overcome procrastination, and help you to take action on all the things that really matter.
Creating a high-performance culture. There is a lot that has been written on this topic. There's been a lot of research that is done. We've had several experts come and talk about culture, which is great. And what we have today is not only an expert, but a practitioner. His name is Chuck Runyon, and he is the CEO of Anytime Fitness and some other brands as well. He is going to talk about how they have built that culture. It's actually Self Esteem Brands that it all falls under, and I don't know if you've heard of Waxing the City, but they are growing rapidly, and part of how they're doing it is through culture. And it's one thing to learn about the value of culture from people who have researched it. I think it's another to learn about it from somebody who has built it and lived it. And here you're talking about $1 billion, organization, the thousands of franchisees across the globe. And when I tell you radical culture, you're going to be blown away by something that you hear, which is one of the very, very common practices of people inside this company, not only their team members, but something that their customers are doing on a regular basis. And then at the end, I'm going to share with you one of my new, very favorite words. It is one word that I think will change your life and change your business. It's going to help you implement and execute what you're about to learn on today's episode. So stick around to make sure you find out that secret magic word, and we'll get started just after this message.
This episode is sponsored by Southwestern Coaching. Southwestern Coaching has helped over 12,000 people increase their incomes by over 25% on average. As a successful salesperson, you know the importance of increasing your sales, but sometimes you might just need a little extra push and accountability to meet your goals and grow your business. Southwestern Coaching will help you increase your income through one-on-one sales and leadership coaching tailored specifically to your needs. Together, we will elevate sales. To schedule your free one-on-one business action planning session with a Southwestern coach, go to www.southwesternconsulting.com/Action Catalyst.
Entrepreneur Magazine called this franchise the #1 franchise on the planet in both 2015 and 2016. Forbes called them one of America's most promising companies, and they have several other accolades from all different media outlets and so forth. And today you're going to hear from the CEO himself. Chuck Runyon is the CEO at Self Esteem Brands, which includes Anytime Fitness and also Waxing the City. and he and his business partner, Dave Mortensen, co-founded Anytime Fitness, and it's just been an incredible success story. And they got a new book coming out, or just came out, called Love Work, Inspire a High-Performing Work Culture at the Center of People, Purpose, Profits, and Play. And that sounds like a story we have to learn from and steal some free advice from. So, Chuck, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rory. It's an honor to share our story. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I am honored to have you. You and I first met at John DeJulius' Secret Service Summit, which was awesome, and we're huge fans of Johnny D and the Secret Service Summit. And so I guess, first of all, let me just kind of, before we dive into the book, and I do want to kind of talk about the 4 Ps, I think that's really actionable for people, but like, how in the world, there's a lot of franchises, there's a lot of gyms. And wasn't Anytime Fitness like the fastest growing gym for like 10 straight years or something?
It was, and I want to take people back a little bit to this pre-digital era, right? We were launching this in like late 2001, 2002, and in fact, we launched our first Anytime Fitness before the first iPod, so there were no smartphones, there wasn't any Facebook, and so there was, this idea of having a key fob that would open up every gym door in the world, right, was just unheard of. And also, most people didn't think it would work because of lack of service, or they might have some safety concerns. And so we really created the category of these type of clubs. They just didn't exist prior to Anytime Fitness. And, I think like most entrepreneurs, they have that story where, people would tell them this idea is not going to work. And it was no different for us. I mean, friends, family, industry experts said this idea will never work. And it's always a reminder for any of the listeners out there that, that every idea seems crazy until you prove that it works. And now it suddenly seems pretty common. So, but we stayed steadfast, hoping the idea would work. We weren't 100% certain. And we applied ourselves. We created this concept. We launched our first gym in May of 2002 in Cambridge, Minnesota. And then the first couple of years, we were just scratching and clawing to grow this, and we started to really reach some acceleration there in 2005. And then it just really took off. And from 2005 really till now, we've been opening, back then 250, now up to 450 clubs a year globally. That's what we'll do this year and in the years to come. And it's, number one, it's a testament to the business model, but then number two, the fitness industry has had tremendous growth too. So we're also riding some of those tailwinds.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Anytime Fitness, I think, most people kind of get from the name, it's 24 hours. Were there some other, highlight some of the other unique points? So what you're talking about here with the key fob?
Yeah, so for a member, right, prior to Anytime Fitness, you'd have to drive a little bit farther to a neighborhood club, and, you could only use it during the hours of, say, 5 a.m. to, 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., but with Anytime, we brought it closer to your home or work, because we're in a typical, strip center that you might find with your drive-through or your dry cleaners, your Subways, your grocery stores, and so we're very conveniently located, but also you can access our stores 24/7, 365, and so you can come in anytime you want. They're typically about 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, so they're a little bit smaller than a big fitness club, yet so they create a little bit more comfort and intimacy, yet you get all the programming and equipment you'd find in a big club. And so that mixture of convenience and connectivity and being part of the community, really appeals to our members. So that was, from a member perspective, very convenient, but from an owner perspective, it was such a simple model because you didn't always have to be there and the club still operated. So your payroll costs would be lower, you'd have less headache of having to manage so many people in comparison to other franchise opportunities. And, we gave our owners some freedom on offering things like personal training or yoga or some things they were passionate about. So it really appealed to both our franchisee as a consumer as well as our members as our consumer.
And so you allowed, there's a little bit, this is ironic to me, because as people will learn here, culture is your thing, to the point that people are doing tattoos of, a lot of people doing tattoos. Of company logo and slogans and stuff. But this is ironic to me. You have such a clear culture, yet you gave franchisees some flexibility in terms of what you allowed them to offer.
We did, and we're trying to always balance standardization in the franchise so that every club looked and felt the same, but yet we wanted to like amplify the community passion and personality of our owners. And that's, by the way, not always easy to do. And when done right, I mean, it's wonderful for the community and for our franchise owners. When it's done wrong, we have to fix those inconsistencies in the experience nationally. But yeah, I mean, Dave and I as entrepreneurs are always fighting for our franchise owners. And in a typical franchise system, I mean, you get no decision making whatsoever. You have to run the playbook, absolutely airtight. And because someone signs a check to us and it's a big part of their life savings, Dave and I want to give them a little bit more autonomy with Anytime Fitness than they're going to have in another brand. And so we've always kind of encouraged them to bring a little bit of personality. If there's something they're passionate about locally, whether it's a type of fitness class or let's say a charitable cause, they can get behind that to do things locally. And so it doesn't have to be standardized across the country. And, going back to your comments on tattoos, a couple of things people are fascinated by, that if you came to our global headquarters here in Minnesota, I think we're the only corporate campus I know of that has a full-time tattoo room here in our corporate headquarters. And over the course of the last 15 years, I'm going to guess that we've spent over $500,000 on tattoos because we've had over 3,000 people get them, and we either pay for them or reimburse for them. And so the average tattoo is at least $100 to $200. And so someone will send us a photo. They tell us a reason why they're getting this Running Man tattoo, and they can personalize it any way they want. And so we collect these stories, and it's always about some personal transformation they've made in their life, or they've helped someone they've empowered someone to live a better life. And so it always comes back to that, that purpose-driven benefit that we've given someone or given ourselves. And so it's far bigger than just treadmills and being open 24 hours. I mean, this is really about changing lives.
Man, I mean, that just boggles my mind. 3,000 tattoos. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's members, it's franchise owners, it's been vendors, it's been employees. At our annual conference now, we have 5 full-time tattoo artists, and they literally can't keep up at our annual conference. But again, anywhere in the world. And in fact, there's this wonderful club in Concord Township, Ohio, and I see this on Instagram, and they just are now past 40 of their members have got a tattoo. Of all the clubs in the world, they probably have the most tattooed members. And, they send us the invoice, and we see the stories, and it's so personal. Maybe someone running their first marathon, or someone losing 100 pounds, or someone overcoming depression. I mean, every answer is different, and every tattoo is a little bit different, has a different meaning. And so, again, we're just proud to be a small part of it, but at the end of the day, we have empowered them to change the trajectory in their life, and that is super profound and super meaningful. And so we need to run fitness businesses that are profitable, but the cool part is, we get to change people's lives along the way.
So, all right. So you have your 4 Ps here. One of your Ps is profits. How in the world do you justify saying reimbursing 3,000 people for a tattoo is driving profits? How do you calculate the ROI on that? Where do you go, let's do it. Send us a picture and we're just going to pay for that. In what financial accounting class did they teach that? Say, that makes sense.
Thankfully, I wasn't very good at the finance part of this growing up. I don't know. And it's funny you use the term ROI, return on investment. And look, don't get me wrong. We have business optics on this that we have to measure. But we also use a term here called ROEI, which is return on emotional investment. And I just believe that a business can do more than just make money. And so I don't really know how to measure it other than the fact that, man, it's like currency for the soul, right? I mean, not everything important can be measured. And so, I just know that we've literally changed a person's life. We've changed, tens or hundreds of thousands of people's lives, and we may never know that impact. But when our franchise owners put their head to their pillow at night and they go to sleep, man, it feels good to know that you stand for something that is meaningful in that community at a time when, unfortunately, the world's getting to an unhealthier place. Our values are that, hey, we're going to help people, right, get to their best selves. It may start with fitness, it may start with coaching, it may start with empathy, and I guess that's just tough to measure other than, it's currency for the soul. It's the only way I can really state it, that return on emotional investment.
So that, in other words, you just say, the hell with it. We're just going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone says, hey, look, you've changed my life and I want to put a tattoo of your brand on my skin and I want to personalize it, I'm like, I will absolutely pay for that. Heck yeah. I mean, we got another $500,000. I hope there's 3,000 more people get tattooed. I'd do that all day long.
We have a lot of listeners to this show, so you may get a flood of people out there going like, yes, tattoos on Chuck. Wow.
Remember, it's all it's got to do is it's got to have something about the Running Man or Purple Running Man, if it's part of it, but they can personalize it any way they want. But we do want to hear a story, we want to see the photo, and then send me that receipt, and we will reimburse.
Yeah, so here's the part that's like kind of funny, right? And it's like, yeah, this makes no financial sense. Like, it doesn't make financial sense. And yet, you guys are crushing it. You guys are, you're exploding. And I don't know, last time I looked at the number, so Anytime Fitness was over like 3,000 locations in 20 countries. Is it more than that now?
Yeah, so actually sometime maybe in the first quarter of next year, we will surpass 4,000 units in 33 countries, operating in 17 different languages on 5 continents. And I think we're one of only maybe 15 franchise brands to ever do that. And no one's done it in that speed, that amount of time. So we've probably likely done something no other franchise brand has ever done before. And again, we don't see any reason why we won't continue to add, 400 to 500 stores a year here for the foreseeable future.
So let's talk about profit since we're on that, because the book is called Love Work. And it's really about a culture, and then you've got these 4 Ps: people, purpose, profits, and play. So, what is your philosophy towards profits then? Is it all based on just, hey, whatever we feel is like the right thing, or like give me your take on that?
No, look, it is the financial lifeblood of a business, and this was written specifically for those who are involved in a small to medium-sized business. And make no mistake, you have to have financial profits in your business. That is why we work. And the 4 Ps are a formula that has to be linked together, but we make very clear in the book that if you take out profits, the other 3 cannot sustain themselves, right? Where if you take out, say, purpose, you can still have a sustainable company with like people, profits, and play. But again, you have to make money in a business. And by the way, when you're making money, that provides opportunities for your team. You can reinvest in them, and you can change more lives, which adds more purpose and play. So, financial, you have to perform, you have to make money. And so we talk about that. And, and by the way, the book, I hope, like when people read it, they get a sense of empathy for just how tough it is and how much we admire those who own their own business. And it tells some stories about how we made mistakes, about when we were a smaller business, we just weren't very good at strategic planning. We weren't very good at budgeting, and we weren't very focused in how we apply our resources. And I can tell you, after doing this now for 20 years and working with small businesses, most small businesses are not very good at strategic planning. They're just not very rigorous or disciplined in their financial planning. And if I could go back in time, I wish I could do that. So this book walks you through some of that, and specifically how to do some of that as being a small to medium-sized business. But make no mistake, you have to make money. You have to show profits to have a growing, successful business. And so, that is the lens we operate from. We also talked about the currency of lifestyle. But, a lot of it's focused on knowing your numbers, knowing your strategy, and making sure that your business is improving and growing.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about purpose, because you mentioned that, and it's like, it's kind of like one of the buzzwords of our time is start with why and purpose.
Mm-hmm,
and,
of course.
But you're saying that a company can sort of operate without purpose, but how does a company find its purpose, or where does that come from, or how do you bring that about?
Yeah, so in the book, we talk about, what if you sell widgets, right? What if you're not in the fitness space like we are? We give you some tips on how to find your purpose and how to elevate it within your company amongst all of your stakeholders. So we're very explicit in that. But I got to tell you, I remember I've been in the fitness industry beyond almost 30 years now. And in my early years, I didn't use purpose. I didn't really understand how it would move people, how it would amplify their performance. And then I learned it with Anytime Fitness, and the book give you some moments on when I had this epiphany. And I started to see the difference on how it really deeply stirs people from the inside and takes them to another level when it comes to, working a little bit harder, asking an extra question. I mean, going that extra mile on behalf of the consumer. And so, if you think just in basic terms of, IQ, using your head, and then what I like to call heart power and brain power. You combine those two. And so I really want to make sure that our team has their heart into this initiative, not just their brain into this initiative. And when they put those two things together, I'm telling you, it really amplifies the performance of a team, of individuals. And I can just see it in their eyes. And and the facts are, right, millennials specifically would rather work for a company they believe in and earn less than work for a company they don't believe in and work more. And our industry, employs a considerable amount of millennials. So it's important to them that they have values and they can align with what the company stands for. But I think this is every generation now is kind of aligning to that. But if you do employ millennials, they care more about purpose than maybe previous generations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it just comes down to performance. So there's I call it the economics of purpose. It's, people, they would jump out of bed on a Monday morning ready to tackle that problem because they believe in the mission. They believe in what the company stands for. And it's combining your heart power with your brain power.
So, what are some of the things that you do to get people to buy into that? Obviously there's a long way. There's a big gap from saying, hey, purpose matters to us, and somebody going, yeah, right, to going, yeah, I'm going to get a tattoo of the running man on me. So, what are some things as a leader that you think you guys do that help sort of cultivate that sense of purpose, in the team?
One of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life with George Bailey. And we talk, George Bailey, if you remember, gets a chance to see what would have happened if he had never been born, right? How would his town and the people around him been impacted? And so we use that as one of the examples in the book is what if your company had never existed, right? Who would be impacted? Whether it be providing jobs to some of your employees or whether it's the value of your products and services and how they're making your consumers' lives better. And so start with, if our business didn't exist, who would be impacted? And then once you start to see, hey, look, yeah, we are doing something that provides value to people, now you've got to find a way to tell that story. And so we do that in our internal meetings. We actually invest in some videos to, share how we've impacted our franchise owners, impacted our members. And so, I think a CEO has to be in part a storyteller of how the brand impacts the world, right? What the service and product we provide, how it enriches people's lives. And so we just frequently do that in various forms of medium, whether it is written, whether it's oral storytelling at our meetings and all staff events and at our annual conferences. That's the signature moment when we invest in some very nice created videos to explain that, hey, we do more than just make money. We actually, impact people in profound ways. And so, once you find out how you do it, now you got to invest in some storytelling.
Huh.
And by the way, it's so easy to identify with a cause. That's another thing. If you just make something like shoelaces, right, it doesn't seem like it's that romantic or that sexy or life-changing. But guess what? Any company can go out there and find a cause to identify with. There are so many, big or micro causes in your community. Find one. You can have your company devote a little bit of time, a little bit of resource, a little bit of money. You can host some fundraising events. Galvanize your team around a cause. That's another idea shared in the book. It does not have to be a direct link like we are to health. If you make something that's a bit more obscure, there's still no excuse why you can't infuse some purpose into your company by saying, hey, this is what we stand for, and we want to help this, this cause or this group of people.
Not to suggest that those of you that are in the shoelace making business aren't important in the world.
For those who make shoelaces, I apologize.
And you're saying that this storytelling, this purpose casting, this gathering the intel on lives that have been changed, they're saying that's one of the most important roles of the CEO.
I really do. The CEO has to be the one, or the senior leadership team. It's about, look, here's the values of our organization. Here's what we stand for. Here's the impact that we have. And in our strategic meetings, we will mix some of these purpose stories to say, look, if we do X, we will get Y. We'll get this financial return. But let's also talk about what's going to happen to the franchise owner, what's going to happen to our employees, what's going to happen to our members. We talk in sometimes in emotional terms and sometimes in what's very difficult to measure. And we talk about that because, again, our team cares about more than just reporting a profit. And so, yes, I do think it's important to get buy-in. It's got to be top down. And I think the CEO has to mention it in whether it's a State of the Union to the team, whether it's, to the network. But I think it has to be part of the storytelling that goes on frequently. Mm-hmm. And I even do it in social media, whether it is through Twitter or through Instagram or through our internal dashboards. I mean, I'm always trying to put out there, here's what we do, here's what we stand for, and here's how we're going to improve people's lives.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just taking notes on these are the action items for me as I'm working through these. Let's talk about play. We're not going to have time, I think, to get through all. We're just barely scratching the surface. I'm just looking at the clock going, holy moly, like we need to be wrapping this thing up. I'm like, I'm just getting started. So play is, you got people, purpose, profits, and play, and you got play as a centerpiece of your culture. And I know that you work hard, and I know that you value that tremendously, and you don't get to be a billion-dollar brand without having people work their butts off. So talk to me about the balance of work and play. Like, how do those coexist?
I think it is a balance. I think it's the one big aspect that most leaders really struggle with because they're serious, right? They want to get serious work done. And so in the book, we talk about there is science behind play in the workplace and how it fosters collaboration and creativity and alleviate stress. And we use terms like, let's take the work seriously without taking ourselves seriously. And that makes us more approachable, which gives us better relationships with our franchisees. But, even in our meetings, right, we can be kind of playful, which allows us to be vulnerable and like put up ideas on the wall that may or may not work or seem foolish, but that may lead to another idea. Or there's what I call that.
You in a Spock costume. Like we're on stage at some deal, like wearing a Captain Spock outfit.
So, that's another thing. At our annual conference, we put our money where our mouth is. We invest in like showing these values on stage. And so every year at our annual conference, we have these, pretty well done videos that are parodies. So we did a Star Trek parody, and yes, I was Spock. If you know me, it just kind of makes sense. And Dave, my partner, and I are always leading the way and try to be very self-deprecating, not taking ourselves too seriously, and just trying to have fun. The simple fact is this. We spend over half our waking hours at work. We do this more than we sleep. We spend more time here than we do with our friends and family. And I just think we should have a little bit more fun. It doesn't mean we don't take the work seriously, but 7 out of 10 people drive to work like disenchanted with what they're doing. They're emotionally neutral or they hate their work. That's according to Gallup, and that has not moved in like 20 years. 7 out of 10 people hate their work. I'm like, that to me seems like a miserable existence. I want to drive to work. Something I'm going to devote over half my waking hours to. It's something I enjoy with people I enjoy and something I stand for. And so I got to have fun. And, I'm telling you, there's a science behind it. It is another one of the 4 Ps that just elevates your team's performance. And I know leaders have a tough time like embracing it. But if you read the book, it has ideas in there. It's got tips in there. It's got some stories in there. And it has the data and science to show that play in the workplace makes sense.
Interesting. All right, I have one more question for you. So before that, where should people go, Chuck, if they want to connect with you or learn about the book or whatever?
I'm available on Twitter and on Instagram. At Chuck Runyon is my handle, and they can of course direct message me through any of those platforms. They can get the book on Amazon. It is just simply Love Work, one word there, by Chuck Runyon and Dave Mortensen. They can just search that. And by the way, there are still some purple tickets out there. So for anyone who's listening to this, if you order a book on Amazon, when you get that book, look inside. There may be a purple ticket, just like the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And if you receive that purple ticket, you get a special invitation to a 2-day Love Work Summit in Minnesota. We've got some great speakers, and we're really going to talk about people, purpose, profits, play, not just in your work life, but also in your personal life, because it really has become a compass for me. I just don't want to work at the center of those 4 Ps. I want to live there too.
Awesome. Well, last thing, if somebody is listening, okay, and let's say let's say they are a medium-sized business owner or big business owner or even small business owner or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're going, we are a long, long way from a culture where people are getting tattoos. As a matter of fact, as I sit here and hear the statistic from Gallup that 7 out of 10 people, I'm realizing that my team is probably a part of that 7. And we do not have this. This is not, we don't have this kind of thing going. What's the very first thing you would tell them? You'd say, hey, this is the first thing you can do that will start to move the needle on restoring the health of your culture.
Be very transparent, be very vulnerable, and get your team, like just simply go sit with them, ask them questions, and say, hey, I would love to improve the workplace culture here. I think we all would, right? We all want a better place to work. How can we do that? I mean, your team is eager to give great ideas and to give perspectives, and they want a great workplace environment too. They really do. And so this is not just all dependent on the leader, right? Just simply go to them and say, I don't have all the answers, but let's make a goal here in the next year to have a great workplace and environment that's all about high performance, but can also be about more. We can have some fun along the way, and we can impact some people. How can we do that together? So I think if you really bring the team in and they all buy in and they can all weigh in, man, you suddenly got the whole team aligned to like making this a great place.
Really, really love that. Chuck Runyon, my friends, CEO of Self Esteem Brands, which is Anytime Fitness and Waxing the City. The book is called Love Work. You can check it out. And Chuck, man, thanks for being an innovator and for advancing the currency of the soul. I think that's a role that is important in the world. And knowing that somebody like you is out there championing it, that the return on emotional investment and the currency for the soul, I really appreciate it, man.
Rory, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I never would have thought that we would be talking about getting tattoos as a form of business advantage here on the Action Catalyst podcast. What an interesting and fascinating story about culture. And look, I don't know if you picked this up, but this is a $1 billion company that you're talking about, started in 2012. It's growing very, very fast. And so some of these ideas strike me as like, wow, pretty radical, but hard to argue with the results. And Chuck is just an amazing guy, and getting to hear him sort of talk about that and really live it. I'll tell you probably the biggest takeaways for me personally was this concept of return on emotional investment. I think that's so cool. It's taking a financial concept and it's applying it through the lens of the long term, but through what would normally be a non-empirical, kind of a non-measurable in terms of emotions and the emotional buy-in. But this is a great example of how when we say ultra performers think differently, Chuck would definitely fall into this category of an ultra performer. And what he and his team have done is really incredible and really rare. And to hear him kind of put a concept together like that is a great demonstration of what we mean, where we say, look, most CEOs would make a decision strictly financially. Like, does this make sense in the short term? But the significance calculation is all about thinking not about today, but about tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And while there's maybe some decisions in a business that don't make sense in the short term, you go, how do we get ROI off of reimbursing people for their tattoos? When you make the significance calculation, at least in his case, based on what their business model is and their strategy and all their other costs and things and all the other factors that factor into it, and he's able to say, well, look, there's an emotional return here. There's a non-measurable that we think is really converts to a measurable, and so it's worth it to us. So it's both an example, it's both an inspiring concept to me, this idea of going not just evaluating every decision from a purely financial standpoint, which is very rare for a CEO, especially a CEO of $1 billion company. That is unusual to hear them talk about. It's not just about making more money. There's these other impacts. So that I think is inspiring and sort of interesting and educational. But then also, even the fact that he has created a concept like this, to me, as I said, is a great demonstration of how multipliers, ultra performers, are factoring in the long term. They're not just thinking about here and now today, they're thinking about tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that is perhaps the single greatest difference from them versus everybody else. And return on emotional investment, ROEI, is a great example of that. And even, he coupled it with the phrase currency of the soul. I think that is cool because, again, there's sort of this dichotomy of this very black and white, empirical, measurable concept of currency with the somewhat abstract, more difficult to measure concept and consideration of the soul. And you can tell when he talks about it, he really believes it and he buys in, and obviously everybody else does too. And that's what's making the difference. So we're going to talk about that in a second. The other thing that was sort of surprising to me, for whatever reason, was just hearing his emphasis on the role of a CEO to tell the story of an organization and to be talking about the transformation that you provide. And he did clarify and not say just the CEO, but the senior leaders. And that is kind of like a core, almost like an income producing activity, that as a senior leader, you have to be telling the story of the transformation you provide. You have to be talking about the impact that you're making. And I don't think most CEOs or senior business leaders would really think of that as a part of their role. Certainly not something I would think was not something I was taught in grad school, and not something that I've ever really heard that much talked about in, I guess, sort of the literary works of our time, the business writings and so forth. So that's sort of an interesting take from somebody sort of outside of the realm of what you might always hear. If you want to say hi to Chuck, tweet at him at Chuck Runyon and just say hello. Let him know you heard him here on the show. That helps them know that people are listening and helps us get great guests. What I wanted to boil down for you was sort of dovetailing off what Chuck was talking about. And I want to introduce to you a new word. And this is a word that I really love. And it is a word that for the past couple years is something that has been living in my consciousness as we are scaling Southwestern Consulting and we're starting to impact more people and we're going global and we're now reaching international markets. And it's just a concept that I think is super powerful. Before I introduce the concept to you, I want to first take it back a notch to something he was talking about, which is your values, your purpose, your mission. What we at Southwestern Consulting would call a creed. Chuck was referring to it at the very end when he said, get your team involved. Ask them, how are we doing? Get them, and be vulnerable with them and be transparent and be open to their ideas and ask them and include them, involve them in saying, what kind of culture do we want to be? What do we want our company to stand for? How do we want to be known and thought of and recognized? Do that exercise with your team. Even if you have a great culture, every team has to sort of do that to create their creed or their values or their purpose and get them documented and codified in a way that they exist on paper so that you can then pass them and influence them and talk about them. And so that's sort of the first step. But the second step is the part that I really want to talk about. And this is my word. This is like one of my favorite words. And I don't think it's a word that I've really highlighted here on the show for you. And we throw it around some at Southwestern Consulting. I think it's something that we do, but we haven't always really put a word to it. And are you ready for the word? This is a great word. I love this word. And I hope that you love it too. So here it is. The word is operationalize. Operationalize. This is one of my favorite words now. Operationalize. So what is operationalize? Operationalize to me means to manifest an ideal into a mechanism inside of your business. To operationalize is to manifest an ideal into a mechanism inside of your business. So you start with an ideal, this value. That's where the creed comes in. Your purpose, your values, whatever you want to call your mission statement. But these are the philosophies, the principles by which you operate. Okay? So you have these, they are ideals. And then what you have to do is you have to find a way to take that ideal, that concept, and make it come alive in your work. And I think that is something that Chuck is doing brilliantly. Look, the secret sauce is to not suddenly go out and reimburse everybody to get tattoos of your business, of your logo, right? Now, maybe that is something you could do, but it's not so much about the practice as it is about the philosophy of what's happening. They are taking a set of values. They're taking, and to them, culture is huge. The book is that they wrote, Love Work. It's all about culture, and culture is sort of king, and that is a big part of their focus. So what they've done is they've taken that value and they have operationalized it. They have created a mechanism for reinforcing that value, for manifesting that ideal, for making it real. And this is the place where most companies and leaders miss the mark. I mean, most companies don't even have their values in their creed. And if they do have them, they haven't looked at them. Nobody knows them. They don't even read, look at them or refer to them. And sort of, step one is have the creed conversation, go through that exercise, or bring someone from our team in. We can facilitate it for you. Whatever you got to do, get them those ideals codified on a piece of paper. Then sort of stage two is to refer to it regularly, and how you have to incorporate those as part of the culture. You have to remind people of them. And there's all sorts of different ways you can do that, right? You can create awards. Actually, that would be more of an example of operationalized. But I think you can have your values up on a wall. You can give them to people when they're interviewing. You can refer to them when you make decisions. There's things like that. But the real level you want to get to is to operationalize them. The process of manifesting an ideal into a mechanism. The process of manifesting an ideal into a mechanism. In other words, making it become real, making it influence the day-to-day of your business. And one of the ones that I think about, and we've talked a lot about it on the show. In fact, last week we had one of my business partners, Dustin, he was on the show, and I was interviewing him to sort of draw out some of his wisdom for you that I think is really relevant to everybody. And we were talking about how one of our ideals is being practitioners of what we preach. That is something that we have said at Southwestern Consulting from the very beginning, that this is a defining part of what makes us different. We are teachers, coaches, speakers, consultants, trainers, second, right? We do that second. We are practitioners first, meaning everybody in our company, and since sales and leadership coaching is the core of our business, everything sort of funnels back into, our ultimate goal is to get every single person in the business world to have their own private one-on-one coach. We think that will transform a business and will transform the world, is engaging in one-on-one, regular, repeated conversations with your own coach. So that is what we're driving people towards. But part of our difference, our uniqueness, is we said, okay, if we're going to teach salespeople how to sell, then all of our coaches are going to be selling. They're not just going to be coaching. They have to sell. And if they don't sell, if they can't sell, or if they won't sell, then at some point, they are going to migrate towards departing from the culture, either because we'll move them that direction, or because they'll self-elect out, because we are a sales culture, because we love sales, we teach sales, we believe in sales, we know sales is our history, and that is what we do. And it doesn't mean if you can't sell, you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you can't work here. There's other roles that we have that people can migrate to. It just means that if you're going to teach salespeople how to sell, you have to be selling. We're not going to be a company where our sales coaches used to sell. So, they were a top producer many, many years ago, and now they sit around and teach. That's just one of our core values. And so we had to operationalize that in several different ways. One is, through accountability. One is through training. One is just through promoting it. But even on this podcast, so that applies also to leadership. So if you're going to be a leader in our company, there's certain things, if you're teaching leadership and you're one of the people that goes out and you're doing leadership coaching, or you're doing consulting with organizations where we're coaching the leaders, you have to be leading. You have to have a personal team that you have recruited, trained, built, motivated from the ground up, that you are actively leading. It's not that, I did that one time and now I'm a consultant and now I don't do that anymore. It's just not our culture. It's not our philosophy. Again, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's an example of how we have taken an ideal and we have operationalized it. We've taken an ideal and we've manifested an ideal into a mechanism. So, and I was going to say, even on this podcast, we bring practitioners on the show. We have lots of best-selling authors and lots of great thought leaders and stuff because they provide a tremendous amount of value. But if you notice, if you go look at all of our episodes, we also bring, my business partners that are on the show. We all come on and you get to hear perspectives. Why? They may not be as well recognized yet publicly in the media, but they're practitioners. That's their full-time job is not getting their ideas out. Their full-time job is living ideas and doing them. And so we hear from them. And we also, this is something we started to do, I think this year, maybe last year, we bring on, we do these life story segments where we bring on our actual customers so that you can hear from them. That is an example of an operationalizing this ideal that we promote practitioners. We want to be practitioners first and speakers, teachers, coaches second. And so that's part of why we do that. The only reason I say all that is to say that in order for purpose to come alive in an organization, in order for vision to become real, in order for a mission to be felt and lived by the people, as the leader, you have to find a way to operationalize those ideals. You have to find a way to manifest these concepts into mechanisms that are enforced in the daily practice of your business, to where somebody would say, why do we do that way? And you would say, the reason we do that way is because right over here on this piece of paper, where we all got around the table and we said, this is what we believe in. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. It says right here on this piece of paper. And so that is why we do business in that exact way. That is putting your money where your mouth is. That is being a leader. That is making the abstract vision become real. That is operationalizing. So my invitation for you this week is to dig out your old creed, your old mission, your old purpose statement, and begin to operationalize it with your team and also your personal mission statement in your own life. We'll catch you next time. Well, that about wraps up the Action Catalyst podcast for this week. If you haven't yet, please log in to whatever your favorite medium is to listen to the show and both rate this podcast and leave a comment, as that helps new prospective listeners determine if the show's really a good fit for them.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and screenshot this episode to share with your friends on social media. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst and subscribe to our video podcast on YouTube. Thanks for listening.